United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Almond.
Here.
Burnett.
Here.
Caligiuri.
Here.
Comfort.
Here.
Dross.
Here.
Hermson.
Janet, can you hear?
Here. Yep. Here.
Okay.
Ocean.
Here.
Okay. I would like to move the proclamation signing that we have as item number 5 to the end of the agenda, if we could. Anyone in the council opposed to that?
That's fine.
Okay. Then that takes us over to community comments. This item is reserved to receive comments from the community for concerns whether or not they're included in the current agenda. Community is encouraged to speak before the mayor and city council, asked to keep statements brief, time limited to no more than 3 minutes. Any questions are to be asked of the city staff, council members, or the mayor prior to speaking to the full council. So that way concerns can be properly researched and perhaps answered away from the meeting. Comments are to be directed to the mayor and city council only. Now, I would also mention that we have one of our members who is currently out of town. She has a commitment at 6:30 and she needs to leave by 6:25. And so it's my intention to shut off community comments at 20 after 6. Is there anyone who would like to speak?
Thank you.
And name and address too, please.
My name is Sandra Brempy, and I live at 513 East Scott Street, Kirksville, Missouri. My family owns the Stevenson Farm, which is on Site A of a proposed new airport. Site A has 3 century farms and a heritage farm. Our farm was purchased in 1881 and was intended to be passed on to future generations. I have 5 issues. At the very beginning of the idea of a new airport, why weren't people in Mahaska and Marion counties asked if they wanted to sell their property? I can find no record of people ever being asked if they wanted to sell. Secondly, 220th Street shouldn't be closed. It's a major rural road. It's designated as a farm-to-market road. Also, it seems like the city of Oskaloosa is trying to build an airport that's going to mostly be for people of Pella, and it's going to be on Mahaska County land. Fourthly, I believe that a project of this size and expense should go to the Oskaloosa city voters. They previously voted against it. I believe they should have the opportunity to vote again. Also, property owners have rights, and we're here to protect the rights of all landowners in the county. In this room, I know that there are, I can't even imagine how many different opinions about the airport. Some people want a new airport, some people don't. Some people want others to drive to Ottumwa or Des Moines or whatever to fly out of. Some people don't care, probably. Some people think the current airport should be expanded. I don't know. I think in this room there are many, many, many different opinions on that. But I also think in this room there's one opinion that we all share, and that is there can't, in my opinion, be anybody here that would want to have what they own or what produces their income to be taken from them by the government. And whether that's by eminent domain or annexation, I don't think annexation is any better than eminent domain, and I don't believe anybody would want that to happen to them. I really appreciate your considering these issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Alicia Helm, and I live just down the street from here. The regional airport debacle has gone on for too long, and the elected officials in this city need to listen to their voters and move on. In 2005, Oski voters overwhelmingly voted no to an airport being built in Mahaska County. Out of 2,061 voters in that election, 78.3% of them voted against the airport. Yet here we are, 18 years later, and nothing to show for it but wasted money, and it could have been used to improve roads and infrastructure. Some of you have implied that I shouldn't care because no one else seems to. But they do care. I care, and so do many of the people sitting behind me. The First Amendment states, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right to the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. The city charter provides a process for Oski voters to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Repealing those provisions is a direct attack on my First Amendment rights and those of every Oski resident. James Madison is quoted saying, "Government is instituted and ought to be exercised for the benefit of the people." The proposed airport doesn't benefit the people. It only benefits big business elitists. On top of that, the way the city has gone about it represents the attack of property rights and a hostile takeover of rural communities. That is why I chose to start the petition I started. The voters have the right to petition their government and have their voices heard. As long as this city continues to force this project on our community, I will continue to fight against it, and so will many others. And it's not only just Oski voters, it's not just rural residents, it's not just people from all over Mahaska and Marion County. People as far away as Oregon and Virginia are following what's happening in our little corner of the world, and they support our fight. In closing, I'll leave you with the motto of the great state of Iowa, adopted in 1847. Our liberties we prize, and our rights we will maintain.
Thank you.
Good evening. Nick Ryan, 1851 260th Street. I've had the privilege over the last few days to go around with Alicia while she collects signatures, and I want to assure all of you that there is in fact significant and strong opposition to the regional airport and the recent changes to A Avenue and Market Street. Anybody who claims such opposition is minimal or doesn't exist is either delusional or grossly out of touch, and the proof is in the data. Not only is there well-documented opposition in the form of measurable social media engagement, there are literally election results. Not only that, but now there are people actually signing their names to that opposition so their voices can actually be heard, and a lot of them, and fairly enthusiastically, I might add. And instead of acknowledging that opposition, instead of listening to those voices, instead of supporting the right of its citizens to petition their government, the city of Oskaloosa instead scrambled to repeal initiative and referendum from its charter and kill the formal process that allows the voters to exercise their rights under the First Amendment. It was suggested that the reason for the repeal was over concerns that initiative and referendum might not even be legal. I can assure the council that the only part of its initiative and referendum provisions that are unlawful or unconstitutional are the requirements imposed above and beyond those specified by state law. The Iowa Supreme Court has on multiple occasions firmly upheld initiative and referendum for cities governed by a home rule charter. I would strongly encourage each of you to read the Iowa Legislative Services Agency's legislative guide on local initiative and referendum. But we all know the real reason, and it has nothing to do with the legality of initiative and referendum and everything to do with the issues on the petition that Alicia already started. If the city truly believed that there's such broad support for the airport or the 3-lane conversion, I believe it should have the courage of its convictions and let the people vote on them. We already know the majority in this administration will continue to deny the majority of the voters and continue this attack on its citizens' right to petition. We all know the likely outcome of the vote on that agenda item, but I'll tell you this, it doesn't matter. Even if you pass that repeal, I promise you, the people, as prescribed by law, will gather the signatures necessary to force you to put this one on the ballot too. So do what you will tonight, do what you will in the next meeting, but as they say, winter, or in this case, November, is coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brandon Molnex, 514 South C, Oskaloosa, Iowa. I'm holding here the United States Constitution. Inside the Constitution, we have the First Amendment, the right to free speech, also the right to petition our government for the redress of grievances. It appears that removing the referendum that Alicia tried to introduce is an attempt to subvert that. Let me be clear. People of Oskaloosa, the people of Mahaska County do not want this airport. Perhaps instead of focusing on this project, we could focus on fixing water mains and the poor streets Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would care to speak? Okay, seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public comments. Okay. Next up is a consideration of the adoption of the consent agenda as presented or amended. These are all items that are routine in nature. Usually we're acted on in one motion. I did want to draw the attention of the council to items I and J. I is a resolution scheduling a public hearing on June 19th for vacation and sale of a 56.2 foot by 16.5 foot section of the east-west alley adjacent to 1311 South 2nd Street. And J is to consider a resolution scheduling a public hearing for June 5th of 2023. It's an ordinance amending zoning to change the downtown residential land to a use type of mixed-use residential that's to allow in all business districts. So do we have a motion of approval for the consent agenda?
Moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Comfort?
Yes.
Drost?
Yes.
Hermson?
Yes.
Ocean?
Yes.
Almond?
Yes.
Burnett?
Yes.
Calgery?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Getting into the regular agenda. First up is to consider approving an ordinance to amend the city charter. It's by removing Article 6 and modifying Section 7.2 to comply with Iowa law and making conforming changes. This is the second reading. Do we have a motion of support?
Moved. Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. In items where we have concerns regarding legality, it's not uncommon for us to waive the third reading to draw ourselves into compliance. Do we have a motion of support for going with a waiver of the third reading?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Roll call on waiving the rules.
Drost?
Yes.
Hermson?
Yes.
Ocean?
Yes.
Almond?
Yes.
Burnett?
Yes.
Calgery?
Yes.
Comfort?
Yes. Okay, that passes. And then on the ordinance itself, roll call, please.
Hermson?
Yes.
Ocean?
Yes.
Almond?
Yes.
Burnett?
Yes.
Calgery?
Yes.
Comfort?
Yes.
Drost?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Moving on to item B. This is a presentation on the status of the 3-lane conversion and the traffic signal installation project. Sean?
Yes, thank you. So, I'm Sean Murphy. I'm the senior engineer technician for the city. I'm here to talk to you today about the 3-laning project to give both an update on where the project stands and also just some background and history on why we moved forward with the project and what the findings were. I would like to thank our another member of our department, Cami Baker. She took these slides and made them from an engineer's slides that were very informative and not pretty looking into the. Starting out, so the basis for this change. The city of Oskaloosa worked with the Iowa DOT and contracted Snyder and Associates in 2018 to prepare a traffic study investigating the conditions within the city. One of the main findings was that our collision rate along A Avenue was very high. In some segments, it was as high as 3 times what the expected average would be for a similar type of road use. So looking at that, one of the major recommendations was to put the road on what we call a road diet, which is essentially slimming out the lanes, reducing the number of lanes that we had in order to remove that congestion, to remove some of the safety concerns, to allow more flexibility with use for pedestrians. All of these findings are based on information that the Federal Highway Authority or Association recommends. They have a lot of documentation on their website. They have flyers like this. You can move to the next slide. So one of the major parts of this recommendation is the Highway Safety Information Systems study. And this went through several communities. A lot of this was focused on larger communities that were in the order of 270,000 persons. And in that overall study, it was found that reducing the number of lanes from 4 lanes to a 3 lane with the shared median reduced collisions by about 19%. One subsection of this is that there were actually studies done specifically in 15 locations in Iowa, which were for communities that averaged 17,000 persons. And in that circumstance, which is much more comparable to ours, they saw a 47% reduction in the amount of collisions that they observed. And the amount of traffic that they had on those roads was very similar to what we have on A Avenue. As a matter of fact, the highest was about 13,700 vehicles per day, and we're seeing something along the lines of 13,000 along A Avenue right now. So very comparable range. And again, 47% reduction in collisions is a tremendous amount. A lot of that is associated with traffic calming, that as vehicles are traveling in a 4-lane, you get vehicles traveling at different speeds next to each other. You've got people in the left lane trying to drive very fast and people in the right lane maybe not trying to drive very fast. And so having a single lane helps reduce that, along with some other effects that we'll get to in the next couple of slides. So there's 3 diagrams that the Federal Highway Association has presented that I think are really helpful to understanding why switching from a 4-lane situation to a 3-lane situation really improves people's ability to navigate. One of the primary concepts in traffic control is reducing the number of decisions a driver has to make while they're traveling. Anyone in this room would know that the more decisions you have to make, the more likely you are to make an error. That's just human nature. As you have a lot of information, you've got a lot of decisions, you've got to make them quickly, more, sooner or later you're going to mess up. And when we're talking about traffic, you mess up, you've got a collision, and it certainly ruins someone's day. So this is the simplest of the diagrams, so I presented it first. This is an example of someone turning left across a 4-lane versus across a 3-lane. In a 4-lane situation, you have to travel across 2 lines of traffic. So you've got 2 cars that are traveling next to each other that you have to be aware of. And in addition to that, because of the nature of having 2 lanes that way, one car can completely block your visibility to another vehicle. So oftentimes in this situation when you're trying to turn left, you'll be turning blindly across traffic because frankly you just have to go. In a 3-lane situation, you only have to observe 1 lane of traffic. You never have a blind spot. It's very easy to make a judgment of where that gap is. So this situation in particular is very much improved by only having to turn across 1 lane of traffic. Another situation is when you have a crossing. So this would be a 2-way stop that is one of our side streets going north-south, stopping along A Avenue. In a 4-lane undivided situation, you have got 8 crossing points. That is 8 different locations where there's a likely time when 2 vehicles' paths would cross each other, making normal motions, just crossing straight across the road. Whereas with the 3-lane situation, you only have 4 of those. Again, the visibility is drastically improved in this situation as well. You don't have to make guesswork about how multiple cars are traveling at any given time. And while it's certainly not encouraged as a part of this, the median also provides a bit of a safety. If you do misjudge and you get halfway across the road, there's a place to stop and potentially avoid a collision. Again, it's not really something we encourage someone to do on purpose, but having those little safety items in there can be helpful as well. This diagram is a little complicated, but this shows the circumstances traveling just straight along with people trying to turn off the road. So the left diagram, at the bottom left, you can see the blue arrow, a person trying to make a left turn motion across 2 lanes of traffic. There are 2 points that you can have a collision. In addition to that, you can see the red line that goes over into the right lane and back over to the left lane. That represents if you're waiting to turn left and a vehicle's trying to pass you, those are 2 places where you create another potential collision. Anytime a driver has to maneuver like that around other vehicles, they're going to have to make decisions, they're going to have to make observations, and you put them at risk of having a collision. Similarly, as you go further north, you can see there's also the the risk of people rear-ending each other. Obviously, that risk still exists in a 3-lane situation, but because of the traffic calming of having a single line of traffic instead of 2, and not having to worry about cars pulling in and out of your lane, it's much less likely that someone misjudges that distance and ends up in a rear-end collision situation. Before I move on and talk about the project, is there any questions about kind of the theory of 3-laning and how it benefits traffic flow?
I want to say, I remember the original conversation about this. I think I had just come on to council when we were talking about it back in 2018. But the North Market A Avenue intersection is the exact situation that you outlined in the 4-lane and crossing across blind traffic. I think we've all been in a situation where you closed your eyes and gunned it and hope that a little Honda Civic doesn't come flying out from around the semi that's waiting to turn north onto Market. So agree 100% from my own perspective and experience that it's much improved.
I would add too, not just a little over an hour ago, that calming effect is also important for pedestrians, because sadly there was a man staggering in the middle of A Avenue. If it had been a 4-lane, somebody was going to hit that man. I don't know if he was drunk or medical or what, but he was staggering, and because he was in the middle, there was a calming effect, and people were slowing down and trying to see that he was getting across, and that. So it does help pedestrians, and I'm sure bicyclists as well too. So.
Yeah, many of the 3-laning designs include specific bicycle lanes, but even without them, just having the traffic be calmed is beneficial. Okay. So moving on to the status of our project, first I'm going to focus on A Avenue and Highway 92. This is a diagram showing, so all these gray dots are places where the DOT has a recorded collision throughout the city.
Wow.
These are collected based on police reports. The red dots that you see are ones that are specifically within the time frame that we're investigating. Collisions are highly seasonal. During the spring or during the winter and fall, we don't see that many collisions, and as we get to summer and fall, we start to see more as people are traveling more. So because of that, I looked at the data for collisions along A Avenue from 2012 to 2023 that happened specifically in the months of January, February, and April, and compared that to specifically in 2023 the collisions that we had in those months. And what we're seeing is over the 11-year span that was from 2012 to 2023, including 2023, we had 191 collisions, which averages out to 3.4 a month. And if we just look at this year, the data that we have from after the 3-laning project, we've seen 11 collisions so far. So we're seeing an average of 2.75 per month. So it's pretty simple to see that our collisions just directly from last year are down. We went from 20 collisions in 2022 to 11 in 2023. And that data is somewhat deceptive in my opinion, because our pavement striping was only partially completed. There were a lot of areas where we had striping that was difficult or not, if not impossible to see. So I think the fact that even with that circumstance, we're seeing a substantial reduction in collisions is really encouraging. Move on. So Market Street and Highway 63, I actually don't have anything to report on this. I wanted to include it for thoroughness, but that restriping was put off until this spring. So we don't actually have any data on the 3-laning, but I wanted to just show what our crashes have looked like along the corridor, and so that it was clear that we're keeping an eye on it, but we can't really report anything yet. Then last, we've got the C Avenue traffic signal. These are crashes that we have in that area. The data for this is a little harder to be analytical on just because there is so little data. We don't have that many collisions at this individual intersection. This is actually from 2013 to today, all of the collisions, and this is not just the partial year for the previous years, it's the full years. whereas for this year, it's obviously only partial. So we have seen a significant increase in traffic, about 13%, according to the traffic study that was done in January. Obviously, we could benefit from doing another traffic study now that traffic patterns are settling in a little bit more. But we aren't really seeing a significant increase in collisions in spite of that increase. And that's also, we did have some issues with the actual functionality of the traffic signals at C Avenue for a while, which we believe are sorted at this point. So hopefully we'll see that number remain stagnant. Then to finish things out, the major project items on this have been completed. There's not any major changes. There's just some punch list items, stuff like replacing straw mattings. There's one of the pedestrian signals at High Avenue that's not currently functioning properly. Some dirt piles that were left around, signs that are not quite right. So things that are touch-up items that they'll finish up before we can accept final completion of the project. And that's all I have. So if there are any more questions, I'd be happy to.
Well, I can comment that the signaling on C Avenue, I remember when in 2019 when we were deciding that, questioning whether or not that was really necessary. And I've had a number of people come up to me and saying, thank you so much for doing that. We didn't know how much we needed that. It's actually working well.
And with the traffic diverting off A, C is being used more. So.
Well, during the school hour, people you couldn't cross.
No, I know.
It was just terrible. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Okay, item C is to consider a resolution adopting proposals for the employee benefit and insurance programs for fiscal year 2024. So Brad Raymond oftentimes will do a presentation. Is he planning to do anything, or is this just an item for council?
It's an item for council. I think he's not available.
Yeah, he's out. Yeah. So the staff did meet with him in May, and he said this was the best proposal he had come back for renewal as the city of Oskaloosa. So it was pretty straightforward. No big changes from last year, other than the few that are listed. Vision is going to go up 3%. That is a voluntary one that employees pay for. Dental's going up 4%. Again, that's employees elect to do that. Voluntary. Everything else is pretty much remaining the same. We continue to look at deductibles and out-of-pockets and maximums. We review that every year, take whatever the inflation rate is. So January 1 of 2024, we're looking at the deductibles $625 for single, $1,250 for a family. But that's as much as we can take it up to keep that grandfather status. That is, we're kind of crazy that we're still talking about grandfather status, but it's working well for our plan. We are at a point right now where we had budgeted at the study session in January, proposing a 5% increase. We are very comparable now with Walmart's suggested rates. So we will see, family will see just a little under 5% increase, and singles will see even a little bit more under that in order to keep that grandfather status. But because we continue to raise with the inflation rate, or everything we can, the city's taking on less responsibility expenses with that. The one thing he did mention, if we are at 77% of what, if total cost that you could be looking at. So anything under 80 is considered a good year. We typically are around 70, so we're still a little bit higher. But if we, maximum cost, where they've got us right now is a little over $1 million. And we do have a fund the maximum cost that they're proposing would be $941,000 for next year, and we do have a budget of $1,003,000. So, and our fund balance is sitting at $857,000. So that has increased over the past couple of years. There was a couple of years where that kind of got a little low, so we did see some higher increases. So we seem to be in a very good spot. Last year he had talked about, we might be looking at some different changes this year, but like I said, our renewal was one of the best ones he had. So it's pretty straightforward. So.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Do we have a motion of support for this resolution adopting the employee benefit and insurance programs for next year?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Always like a good year. Roll call, please.
Ocean,
Yes.
Almond.
Yes.
Burnett.
Yes.
Caligiuri,
Yes.
Comfort,
Yes.
Drost,
Yes.
Hermson,
Yeah, they just need to drop.
She's out. Okay. So that passes. Getting to item D, this is to consider a resolution approving the voluntary annexation of the property owned by the Oskaloosa Community School District and generally located at 2098 Suffolk Road. The school district applied to voluntary annex the parcel ID as written in our agenda. It's part of Outlot A in the Pine Ridge Edition, 5.18 acres. Parcel is undeveloped and generally located at 2098 Suffolk Road. As required by Iowa Code Section 368.73, notice of this annexation was sent to the affected public utilities, the Mahaska County Board of Supervisors, Area 15 Regional Planning Agency, and any city within 2 miles, namely Beacon. Public notice was published in the Oskaloosa Herald, and there have been no objections. So annexation will make the boundaries more uniform and also allow the city to guide future residential development through the planning and zoning process. Staff is recommending the city council hold the public hearing, receive comments, and then approve as they see fit. So I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak to this annexation? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Do we have a motion of support?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I see part of the annexation doesn't include part of the road, does it? Still belongs to the county, right?
We can check state law on it, the application is for their property. And we could ask our attorney's office for clarification on that.
Just curious.
What I'm used to is when an annexation occurs, it goes across the road.
Right.
We'll verify that.
All right.
Other comments? Roll call, please.
Almond,
Yes.
Burnett,
Yes.
Caligiuri,
Yeah.
Comfort,
Abstain.
Drost,
Yes.
Ocean,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Item E is to consider a resolution levying a special assessment for nuisance abatement, 316 North 2nd Street. It's in accordance with Oskaloosa Municipal Code 8.08.080. This is a time for a public hearing levying a special assessment against private property for abatement as outlined in our attachments of the agenda. Certified notices were sent to the property owner. Notice will be published in the Oskaloosa Herald, and if approved, the property owner will have 30 days from the time of filing with the Mahaska County Treasurer to pay for abatement in the city clerk's office. After the 30 days, it will be assessed to their property taxes with a payment schedule at 9% interest. The nuisance abatement was performed in accordance with the Oskaloosa Municipal Code on property at this address. On October 4th of 2022 was the initial write-up for junk trash. On October 11th, there was a follow-up and there were still violations. And then after all attempts to contact the residents failed, we decided to schedule an emergency abatement due to the volume of scattered and torn up trash bags. Unfortunately, Midwest was very busy and it would be the following month when they could do it. November 30th of 2022 was when the emergency abatement was conducted. So it's a $351 bill. I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak to this? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion of support for this special assessment?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
That's an awful long time in between for an emergency abatement. I'm just curious if city staff has the ability to do those, or are we required to go through Midwest Sanitation?
You're talking about the date that it was done and where we're at now.
Right.
So what happened with that was they had acquired some more land on that parcel. And when we went to do the description, the legal description, the county recorder caught it, that it was wrong because of the extra land that they had bought. So we had to start the whole process again. So that's why we're here now, starting everything again with the legal description being correct in our paperwork. We go off of Beacon and it just hadn't caught up with the actual transaction that happened, so.
Even so, and I appreciate that information, I know that 10/11/22 is when there was a follow-up on violations persisted, but then 11/30/22 was as soon as Midwest could get there. I'm just curious if there's anything the city can do to speed that up. I mean, just looking at the pictures, that's awful long time to have that garbage and junk sitting there.
The first notice went out on the 4th, which gave them a week. And then on the 11th, like the mayor talked about, that's when we write a letter and we give them 2 weeks from that time. That's a certified letter. And then after that 2 weeks, then we get a hold of Midwest if nothing's done. Unfortunately, that was just it doesn't happen very often, but Midwest was extremely busy and we're kind of at their, disposal as to when they can get there.
Okay.
Intended on the disposal, but it just took them a little bit longer that time.
Thank you, Chief.
Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Burnett,
Yes.
Calgery,
Yes.
Comfort,
Yes.
Drost,
Yes.
Ocean,
Yes.
Almond,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Item F is to consider and adopt the revenue purpose statement for the franchise fees established by the proposed gas franchise ordinance. There are no proposed changes to the existing revenue purpose statement. So it allows revenue spending to be used for A, public safety, which includes the equipping of fire, police, emergency services, sanitation, street, and civil defense departments. Item B is the establishment, construction, reconstruction, repair, equipping, remodeling, and extension of public works, public utilities, and public transportation systems. C is the construction, reconstruction, or repair of streets, highways, bridges, sidewalks, pedestrian underpasses and overpasses, street lighting fixtures and public grounds, and the acquisition of real estate needed for those purposes. And finally, economic development activities and projects. So we do need to consider this resolution to adopt the revenue purpose statement again. Do we have a motion to support?
Moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Calgery,
Yes.
Comfort,
Yes.
Drost,
Yes.
Ocean,
Yes.
Almond,
Yes.
Burnett,
Yes. Okay, that passes. Item G is to consider and approve the proposed ordinance that amends the current gas franchise with Mid-American Energy Company, and it increases the rate of the franchise fee. So the City Council discussed the franchise fee as part of the fiscal year 2024 budget consideration. Numerous factors have impacted the revenues and expenses, including major changes to the property tax system, also global inflation and market conditions. Considering revenue limitations and cost drivers, the proposed ordinance amends the code to increase the percentage rate at which franchise fees are assessed to 5%. A fee is imposed upon the gross revenue generated from the sales of electricity by the company, that should be by gas, by the company within the corporate limits of the city. So, an ordinance amending Title 13, Chapter 13.12, which granted to Mid-American Energy and its successors and assigns the right and non-exclusive franchise to acquire, construct, erect, maintain, and operate in the city of Oskaloosa, Iowa, a natural gas system, and to furnish and sell natural gas to the city and its inhabitants, and authorize the city to collect franchise fees for a period of 25 years. There is a public hearing required by this, so I'll open the public hearing if anyone would like to speak to it.
Just for clarification, so this is to give Mid-American the exclusive franchise rights to Oskaloosa, correct?
Non-exclusive.
Non-exclusive.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mhm. Any other comments? Roll call, please. Oh, excuse me. I'm closed the public hearing. Comments from council. Roll call, please. Oh, I'm sorry. We do have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We do now. Okay. Any comments? Roll call, please.
Comfort,
Yes.
Drost,
Yes.
Ocean,
Yes.
Almond,
Yes.
Burnett,
Yes.
Calgery,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Item H. This is to consider and adopt the revenue purpose statement for franchise fees established by the proposed electric franchise ordinance. And it's identical wording to what is in the gas, so I won't take the time to read through it since it's identical to the gas ordinance. Do we have a motion of support for this revenue statement?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Drost,
Yes.
Ocean,
Yes.
Almond,
Yes.
Burnett,
Yes.
Calgery,
Yes.
Comfort,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Item I, this is to consider and approve a proposed ordinance amending the current electric franchise with Mid-American Energy to increase the rate of the franchise fee. And so, similar to the conversation that we had on the prior item, that we discussed this in the 2024 budget. The same factors are in play here regarding the property tax system, global inflation, and market conditions. This raises the rate to 5%. The fee is imposed upon gross revenue generated from sales of electricity by the company within the corporate limits. So Title 13, Chapter 13.16 is the electric franchise of the city's Code of Ordinances that grants Mid-American Energy the right to acquire, construct, erect, maintain, and operate in the city an electric system and furnish and sell electricity for a period of 25 years. And so I'll open the public hearing if anyone would like to speak to this. Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Do we have a motion of support for this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ocean,
Yes.
Almond,
Yes.
Burnett,
Yes.
Calgery,
Yes.
Comfort,
Yes.
Dross,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Item J. This is to consider a resolution awarding the contract for the Edmondson Playground Improvement Project. The Edmondson Playground Project was advertised and let for bids according to City Council authorization. 2 bids received, with the lowest bid submitted by Caliber Concrete. The bid was in the amount of $561,338.65, which is 7% lower than the EOPC engineer's estimate for the project. The engineering consultant is McClure Engineering. They reviewed the bids, recommended the award to Caliber. So if the project's awarded, construction begins immediately upon approval of the contract by the council, completed no later than September 1st of 2023. Do we have a motion of support for this?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
We're gonna get a
Get it done.
playground.
Get it done. Get
It's
it
gonna
done.
happen. Yeah, coming in under budget's a very pleasant
under
surprise. Yeah. Yeah, of course. We'll see what September 1st has. Okay. Roll call, please.
Almond,
Yes.
Burnett,
Yes.
Calgery,
Yes.
Comfort,
Yes.
Dross,
Yes.
Ocean,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Takes us to item K, which is an ordinance establishing vacant building codes, first reading. So on September 19th of 2022 and May 1st of 2023, the City Council discussed and considered a vacant building registration and inspection program. The intent of the program is to further the goals of the strategic plan and the comprehensive plan for a quality, safe, and attractive community. The program would require registration, payment, and annual inspection to ensure the building is secure and compliant. The attached ordinance creates a new chapter, number 15.30, entitled Vacant Buildings, and also establishes an appeal process to the Building Code Board of Appeals. If this item proceeds, a resolution establishing the registration fee will be presented with the third reading of the ordinance. So this is the first reading. Do we have a motion of support?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I'd just like to say thank you to Sean for providing that presentation last meeting. It's been a while since we talked about it, so it's good to have that refresher.
Roll call, please.
Burnett,
Yes.
Calgery,
Yes.
Comfort,
Yes.
Dross,
Yes.
Ocean,
Yes.
Almond,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Item L. This is to consider an ordinance amending Chapter 10.48 of the Oskaloosa Municipal Code for no parking restrictions on North J Street. It's the second reading. Staff received a request to investigate a parking restriction along North J between B Avenue and C Avenue. Currently, there's no parking restrictions in the location. North J Street reduces to a 21-foot roadway through a residential district with no curb to the north of B Avenue. It includes a ditch on the east side of the road. 6 responses were received for this segment. The responses were generally in favor of a no parking restriction, 4 responses in favor of a parking restriction, 2 opposed. Of the 4 responses in favor, 2 preferred the east side to be restricted and 2 preferred the west side. Staff recommended the no parking restriction be placed on the east side because of the road ditch. So the Traffic Safety Commission met on April 21st to discuss it. Commission is recommending that the City Council approve a no parking restriction along North J Street on the east side of the road from B Avenue to C Avenue. This recommendation is primarily driven by the roadway widths and the traffic pattern for the residential area. So there's a map that's included with the results in the survey. The first reading included additional consideration between A Avenue and B Avenue, which the council declined to change. So do we have a motion for approval on this second reading?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Caligiuri.
Yes.
Comfort.
Yes.
Dross.
Yes.
Ocean.
Yes.
Almond.
Yes.
Burnett.
Yes. Okay, that passes. That gets us to the point where we move the proclamation to. And so, wanted to draw the council's attention to a proclamation that I'm wanting to sign for National Public Works Week. And it reads, whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are vitally important to sustainable and resilient communities, and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Oskaloosa. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals, who are public workers, engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our community streets, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it's in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in Oskaloosa to gain knowledge of and maintain a progressive interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their community. And whereas since 1960, the American Public Works Association has sponsored National Public Works Week. Across North America, with more than 30,000 members in the U.S. and Canada, use this week to energize and educate the public on the importance of public works to their daily lives, planning, building, managing, and operating at the heart of their local communities to improve everyday quality of life. Whereas the year 2023 marks the 63rd annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association, the theme for 2023, chosen by the APWA, is Connecting the World Through Public Works. Now, therefore, I, Mayor David Kreutzfeld, hereby proclaim the week of May 21st through 27 of 2023 as National Public Works Week in the city of Oskaloosa, and urge the public to recognize and celebrate the hard work and dedication provided by the City of Oskaloosa's Public Works Department. And I am dating it this 15th day of May, 2023, and signing. Matt, would you come forward? This is going to work well. Can we do this? Yeah.
Perfect. And now this way.
Oh, yeah.
Not so fast.
Thank you.
Now let's get these real
So I'm guessing since you walked away from microphones, you don't have any additional elaboration you would like to do. Okay. That gets us to the end of our regular agenda. Reports from city staff, city manager, anything? Okay, city clerk, anything?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay, city attorney?
Nothing, thank you.
Welcome back. Okay, city council members. Lisa?
Yes, I attended the graduation of William Penn this weekend, and I'm not sure how many times people realize how many international students come to this community. The keynote speaker was the first African woman here in 1964, and it was just fascinating to hear her. I took in 3 international students during COVID because they couldn't get home, and so I'm hosting 3 people from Wales. They have very interesting comments about the community and that. So I just think we should be very proud of a very, very international college in our midst.
Okay. Joe? Charlie?
Nothing.
Okay.
No, sir, thank you.
No, sir, thank you.
I'm good, thanks.
Okay. I have nothing to add as well. So with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Dinner.